episode 20 of Butler School. Now, today it's the Queen's birthday, so it's a very exciting day. So, apparently she specifically said that she doesn't want any big fuss under the circumstances, no 21 gun salutes or anything like that. So we're going to celebrate her with something very traditional, very British, and that's a nice cup of tea. Making a cup of tea, to be honest, couldn't be easier. And I'm not going to try and make it seem more difficult than it actually is. But I'm just going to give you a few little hints that might help you make the perfect cuppa. First thing, of course, is we make it in a teapot, not straight in the cup. Now, the best cup of tea should be made with good quality loose leaf tea. That really does give you the best cup of tea. And use a good heaped teaspoonful per cup that you're going to make. Okay, so if you're making 2 cups of tea, 2 heaped teaspoonfuls and an extra one for the pot, just to give you a bit more flavour. But what I'm going to use today is tea bags, because quite frankly that's what most people use most of the time. It's very convenient, it doesn't involve a strainer. You know, obvious reasons. They don't taste quite as good, even if you do buy exactly the same brand in a tea bag and a loose leaf tea, the loose leaf does taste better, but it's a compromise that we can make. Now, first thing you're going to need to do is warm the pot. Okay, so to warm the pot, take your freshly boiled water, put that in there. And do draw fresh water and boil it fresh each time you make tea. Don't just keep boiling the water over and over again, because if you live in I'm lucky that I live in Scotland where we have particularly pure water, but if you live somewhere with hard water like the southeast of England, each time you do that you get more and more calcium and you get a grey looking tea, so it's not very nice. So just warm that up, just give it a swirl around, just get it nice and hot on the outside, and just pour that away through the spout, because then it warms the spout as well. Okay, don't worry, I have got something down there, I'm not just pouring it on the floor. Okay, so then I'm making a 2 cup pot, so I'm going to put 1 for each cup and 1 for the pot. This is black tea. Now, tea is made from a herb, Camellia sinensis, something along those lines, which is native to China and Southeast Asia. Quite an interesting history with Britain and tea. It's a very classic sort of empire story. We went to China and I've got to fill, by the way, this should brew for about 3 minutes. I've just got to fill it at a time. We went to China and wanted to start exporting the tea. The Chinese didn't want us to, so obviously we stole some. We took the plants to India and started growing them hugely successfully in India. And to this day, India and China are the 2 main growers and producers of tea. You've really got, there's thousands of different sorts of tea. And at this point, I'm only talking about actual tea with tea leaves, with the Camellia sinensis in it. But, you know, there's also herbal teas and fruit teas, etc., which are really infusions rather than teas. But there's 3 main sorts of tea, which is black tea, oolong, and green tea. The difference is to do with the leaves being fermented before they're dried. So when you pick a green tea, it's immediately sort of boiled and it's not really fermented. It's kept, that's why it stays that green fresh colour, because it's not left to ferment. And then a full-on black tea, which is what you most often drink, especially in the UK anyway, that's left for quite a long time to ferment, which gives it that really rich flavour. Then an oolong tea, oolong means something like black dragon, I think, something like that. An oolong tea is fermented for about half as long as a black tea. So basically you've got the 3, not fermented, fermented for a while, and fermented for a long time. It gives you a totally different flavour profile. One question that people ask is expensive tea better? Yes, because the cheaper the tea, they tend to use the sort of dust that's left over from, good quality teas. You'll see have big bits of tea leaf in it. It's got a nice surface area, it works well, and the cheaper ones tend to be like very fine crumbly dust. Next thing which people always ask is milking first or milking second. Now, and this is something that Hollywood seems to get wrong constantly. I've seen so many films where you've got this allegedly well-bred sort of British aristocrat and they're like, yeah, make sure you put the milk in first. Totally wrong, completely the wrong way around. The tea is supposed to go in first. And there's one very simple reason for that. It proves you've got good quality china. Now, of course, these days, all china is more than capable of having boiling water poured straight in it. But back in the high and heady days of the tea party, only very fine quality china could take having hot water put straight into it. So if you're a bit more common, and you could only afford basic china, you had to put the milk in first to stop the cup smashing when you pour the stuff in. So it's a way of sort of implying someone's a bit more upper class if they put the tea in first and the milk in second. In fact, there's a little expression, they call them myths. Milk in firsts. So it's another way of saying you're a bit common, you're a bit of a myth. Milk in first. No judgment. Sugar, obviously, if you like a bit of sugar in your tea, nothing wrong with that. When I'm serving tea to people, as a butler, I would normally bring in the tea tray and let them serve themselves. That's the tradition. One of them will be mother, that's the expression. Who will be mother? Who will pour the tea? Not always, sometimes the butler will actually go around and pour the tea for the guests, but it's usually quite nice to bring in the tea tray, you put it down, and then you discreetly leave the room. Because of course, being a butler, you're always very discreet. You come in, you do your job, they barely notice, the tea's just appeared in front of them, and then you discreetly leave the room and leave them to chat. But if you are pouring it, our nicely brewed tea, pour it to sort of 3/4 full. Don't brim the cup, partly for practical reasons that they might want to put some milk in, etc, etc. But it generally looks a bit nicer if you don't fill it right up to the top. And again, I always let people put in their own milk and sugar because it's very much to taste. It's a bit like when I was saying in the previous video about letting people put their own water in their whiskey. It's so personal and so specific. It's best to let them do it themselves. The other thing that I always say with butlering is let people have what they want. There's plenty of very sort of VIP important people that want a mug or they want something different, and we should never tell them how to have it. Like with the milk, if they want the milk in first, whatever you do, don't start preaching to them about the fact. I know I just have, but don't tell them. If the guests want it the other way around, do it the other way around, trust me on that. But personally, I like a nice big mug of tea, because when you've been having a hard day's work as a butler, to be honest, you need a nice big mug of tea to quench your thirst. So, happy birthday, Your Majesty, and thank you everyone for listening. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Goodbye.